They've got about 10 acres or so with a horse barn. So he has somebody else that comes and takes care of all the horses, and he just gets to play with them all day long. It's a win-win situation for him.
When were you stationed there?
Altus and 71. No, 72.
It's hot down there.
Real hot down there.
Especially if you're standing on a runway, probably.
Yeah. I had an office job. I had it easy.
You didn't have to be out there with planes.
No, I only when we had to go deliver parts for, they had those big C5As down there.
meeting of the Oklahoma County Home Finance Authority to order. If everyone's ready.
Yes.
Agenda item number 1 on the March 15th meeting is discussion and possible action regarding the minutes of the December 15th, 2022 meeting.
I move approval.
And I wasn't present at the meeting, but the parts of the meeting I could hear when y'all let me in on speakerphone. I did not see any corrections, so I'll second that. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Let the record show that carried unanimously. That moves us on to agenda item number 2, which is consideration and possible action with respect to approval of the fiscal year 2021 audit.
Mr. Chairman, at the last meeting, I asked that this be tabled as I had not read both the articles in its entirety. I
Okay,
have since, so therefore I move approval.
okay. And I have read them. I will second that. Any discussion? Call for the question. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Aye. Let the record show that passed unanimously. Item number 3 is discussion and possible action with respect to authorizing a memorandum of understanding or other such document between the authority and the city of Oklahoma City regarding the Affordable Housing Development Program and the award of $2 million to the authority from the county ARPA funds.
Council will present this.
I somehow thought he might.
Yeah. I'm going to talk about items 3 and 4 together. We need to vote on them separately.
Okay.
So this is all in anticipation. We've been through the process at the BOCC level to formally request, submit our application through the portal. We expect, or we've been told by Accenture, the county's kind of coordinating entity for the ARPA funds, that they've been working on a subrecipient agreement. Not sure if that's going to be on the commissioners meeting for this Monday or in 2 weeks, just depends on how quick they can get it to us. But we've cleared their portal. We expect no other issues. And so the first item really concerns the nuts and bolts of kind of how I would like or envision the program to work. Aubrey and Jared Beatty with the Municipal Counselor's Office are here today to help answer some additional questions, but I thought I might just tee up real quickly. The city has already been through kind of a solicitation process for affordable housing development projects. They received a number of responses back, kind of due to their budget limitations. They were only able to fund a certain number, leaving a number of those projects unfunded. It would be my suggestion that we enter into this MOU with the city, allow them to continue to vet the projects that didn't kind of meet the initial funding criteria, and have them just kind of work down their list. I would make the caveat that rather than all of the funds go to one particular project, that we spread it out amongst a minimum of 2 projects, kind of at the city administrative level, just to show we're not playing favorites, kind of anywhere along in the process. Aside from that, Aubrey is here. She's got a couple of handouts. Mechanically, I think the way this will work is we would enter into the MOU with the city. The city would go back out, reaffirm the request of the proposers that are out there, and then kind of continue with that outline process. From the county documentation side, once they get through their vetting process and scoring, it's kind of been relayed to me that the county would prefer that we make those allocations directly to the developers and enter into a direct agreement with the developer, either some type of deed restriction or land use restriction agreement that incorporates the terms, kind of the federal guidelines for the hold period, which is really, 20 years. You got to guarantee you're going to keep this at, 65% or less for 20 years, or comply with the LIHTC requirements, et cetera.
Okay.
Ms. Aubrey, when he just mentioned that the county is going to want a deed restriction and so forth. That's the same thing that the city does.
That is correct. We've prepared a declaration of affordability requirements that each of our current recipients will file.
So nothing's going to change other than the county's name would be there instead of the city's. If we make the funds available, the county's name would be there instead of the city's.
That's what you choose to do.
Yeah.
Okay, now, you said you had a question.
John, before she starts, just real quickly, I did go to the meeting when this was introduced. And it would be my impression, all the commissioners report, it passed by a vote of 2-1, but the one vote that didn't, there were a number of other projects, and that commissioner's office wanted everything to be vetted together, and this and one other had already been vetted, so they were voted on and approved. So I don't think it's that the other commissioners didn't want the project, they just wanted fairness for everybody that was asking for the funds, because there's not enough money to meet all the requirements. Jared, does that sound fair?
I would agree with that assessment.
Okay.
Okay, so I've got some handouts, which basically just reiterate Jared's description. What these handouts show is the process that the city went through when we issued the RFP for the projects. The selection committee that reviewed those projects lumped the 21 projects into 3 different tiers. The first tier were the projects that the city ultimately ended up awarding funds to. The second tier of projects in your spreadsheet are shaded peach or orange. That second tier, those are viable projects, but they did not get shortlisted for funds. So what we would recommend is that we take that short list, reach back out to those applicants, let them know that we have $2 million of additional funding, see if they're still interested based on their proposals, see if we can talk to them about what type of revised allocation they may be willing to take for their projects, because most of them requested more than the funding that's available. If you'll see on that list, the next 2 that are in line requested far more than was available. So if what we end up doing with the caveat is not going to the next project and giving them all of the funds, is make sure that we can distribute that to more than one project that would meet our conditions and terms. So our next steps would be to take this back through the selection committee's process that we went through for our first stage, just complete that process, and then if we need to come back to make a presentation to this group, we could do that before we hand it back over so that you can enter into agreements for awards.
Okay, would you think it would be fair that, since there's what, eight that met the threshold, but you ran out of money, and you want to spread it among as many as possible, would you think it would be fair that we limit the amount per project to 400,000 per project?
So
I just I've got a problem in, and I know no one wants to do this, is giving all of the money to one complex or one individual. And most of the ones that are gonna be funded on the city's side of it will be getting the larger portions of the money. So we're not looking at very many projects that we would even consider spending over 500,000.
So, and Jared was on the selection committee, so he can intervene if I'm not expressing this correctly, but when we went into the first stage, look at the funding requests, the selection committee's goal was to maximize the number of units that we could help fund. So we didn't set an arbitrary cap of how much each recipient would receive. We ended up looking at the total number of units that developer is proposing to fund and what their gap is. And we negotiated individually based on the projects with them. So if you wanted to set a cap, we could ask the developer if that would make a difference in their project to fill their needs and see if they'd be willing to accept those funds, or you could allow us to negotiate a percentage of the funds knowing that you want to fund more than one project. But really the ultimate goal was maximize the number of units.
Okay, I don't have a problem with that caveat, other than I would like to fund more than 2 projects. And however you all work it out, if you can get 5 out of there, that's fine. If you can get 3 out of there, that's fine. But I do not think we should be giving a developer more than $1 million when you have these mom and pop smaller developers that need some help in doing their complex, their units also. So that's my concern, and I really don't want to get involved in the selection process. I just, that's what your staff, you vetted it, and I don't want to beat this horse to death. I just have some concerns of us spreading it as much as we can and funding more than 2 projects. That's my concern.
And I would look to your council to
Yeah.
any caveats or conditions on.
I mean, I guess my recommendation would be, let's let the selection committee go back. Let the ones that were unsuccessful the first round validate their need. There may be some funding stack changes, reallocations and stuff, in the interim since this has all gone on, and say, hey, we've got a finite amount of dollars left. And this is what we can do right now. Now, I will tell you, there's some conversations happening amongst other entities about maybe some ERA funds that are left unexpended at some various levels, and about being able to combine some of those funds into a similar type project. But that just depends on if there's actually any ERA funds left. There's some guidance out there that's been released that says if it's for housing stability, certain funds can be reallocated as long as it meets kind of this same threshold criteria. I think we go out there right now saying $2 million is what we have. We have no expectation of receiving anything else, but there may be an opportunity, in the coming months as funds are expended and exhausted on the ERA2 project, that we'll know, if there's a balance left, any of those that could be,
Would that be some funds that the trust would apply for, or would that be funds that the developer themselves would apply for?
So the trust and the county have requested an additional $10 million of ERA funds from the federal reallocation cycle.
Okay.
And the problem is they're just now awarding reallocated funds from what was supposed to have been done in September of last year. And so if you extend that timeline out, then we may not know if we have any more money until August or September.
Okay, well, that's good to know, but meanwhile, we need to spend what we have, and if some more comes down the pipe, we can get that, and we will, see if the city wants to participate in that also.
Wholeheartedly agree.
Couple questions I have on the selection process. Number one, I assume that it goes without saying, but I feel like I need to ask. As an example, the project that wanted $6 million, that's a $74 million project. If we award them a few $100,000, I'm assuming they have to show you where the other funds are going to come from to complete that, or where that's at. All right, and second question, and they're both great agencies, but Community Action and Urban League have both mentioned some combination of all rehab. In the case of Community Action and Urban League would be 6 new and 4 rehabs, but they haven't identified property addresses. So I'm assuming whoever we award this to, Jared's gonna know it has to be in Oklahoma County. It can't be in Oklahoma City and Cleveland County as an example.
Correct. Yeah. And through this next stage of the interviews, we would be getting those details to make sure that we understand specifically where their funding sources are broken down, coming from, where the housing locations would be. So that this tier has not been vetted to the extent the first tier has. And that's the type of information that we would have in our next step of our process.
Okay. And I shared, John's feelings that if we can distribute it to more than one, that would be
More than 2,
yeah. Well, however many we can, not all to one. How's that?
not all to 2.
Okay, I'll accept that. But you all are gonna have to do the vetting. That's your expertise, not ours. We're happy to be the go-between and get the funds and make them available, because it sounds like you had a lot more applications than you had dollars, as was the case with lots of programs in this case. What, if anything, would you be expecting from us in addition to being the vehicle to get you the $2 million?
I think if anything, we just need to, I guess, go through the paperwork part of the process of approving the MOU and the agreement and work out the details on, if we're just providing the selection process to you and turning over the recommended projects, then you take the agreements forward. We've already drafted agreements that you could look at if you'd like to.
I love
use the same
copying Jared's
terms.
work because he's really
You
good
could
at what he
just use
does.
the same
So,
terms.
yeah.
We don't have any expertise in that, so I think,
So you're saying you're gonna select them and then send them back to us?
For approval and to.
For what?
For approval and to enter into the agreements if the county chooses to be the direct funder of those.
Okay. I don't want this process to be cumbersome on you guys' part and on our part. You guys have, and I don't mean to be disrespectful, lady, but you all have done this program over and over again. And if we trust you with the $2 million, then we trust that you'll make the right decisions. And I don't see any need as a trustee bringing back to us what you all have decided on. I think if Jared's going to be involved in the process, he's going to make sure that it meets the criteria of ARPA and all the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed. I personally see no need to come back before the full board unless, I don't know why it would need to come back to us if we're entrusting you with the process and Jared is representing us to make sure that that process is done according to the ARPA regs. Because what I don't want to happen, and you can basically testify to this, is that we drag this process out back and forth, and Treasury looks up and say, "Oh, we're taking this money, giving it to Cleveland County." And they've done that in various programs. If you don't spend it within a timely manner, even though the deadline for spending it has not expired, they look at the process of spending and they'll step in and take the money. So I just don't want to see this process drawn out with the city or the county. If you're representing us and you know what the desires of at least me, more than 2 projects, then you make sure that we're protected and that they're going to spend the money based on the ARPA regs. I think, I don't see it coming back to me to review. The Urban League gonna get 300,000, my community action gonna get 200,000. What if I don't like either one of those? I just don't see a need for that on my end.
I think that's fine. I would just
Yeah.
encourage you to word your motion sufficiently broad that authorizes me
Give all
to
the money
negotiate
to-
those.
let me suggest this, John. Jared, I too am fine with them. They are the experts, we're not. This is not unlike the rental assistance program we did when we went out and found experts, because we weren't. I'm perfectly fine with you all making the decisions, the recommendations, involve Jared. If you feel like there's a need to come back to the board, you can get with the executive director or myself. And if we feel like we need to have a meeting and bring it back before the whole trust, we can. But I too am comfortable with passing on the decision process to them in conjunction with you and making sure that the steps are taken properly on our behalf. Are John, you comfortable with that?
I'm fine with that. Come to city, they meet every 2 weeks and, they've got time frames to get stuff done and before the council, and I just don't want the process to be tied up and become cumbersome.
Okay. Any other discussion, any other comments you all wanna make, Ed, anything you wanna chime in on?
No, sir.
So you need
You have a
motions on
problem
each
with-
one separately,
Yes,
correct?
sir.
We were comfortable with administering it ourselves, or if you wanna do your own agreements and administer it, then we're comfortable working with you however you need us to do.
I personally am comfortable with you all administering it with whatever assistance you need from Jared, and he'll reach out to us if he feels like he needs to.
I'll just tell you we're gonna work very closely with them. There's a desire on the part of the individual commissioners' offices that the county be the one that enters into direct agreements with the developers. That way we have a direct line of, if something happens, we know exactly where to go to. And it's in the county's name to get it back if we need to.
Well, and I guess this is the banker for 40+ years and he coming out, but when we provide the money, we are the banker and we have that right.
Yeah.
That's not uncommon
So that's
at
the-
all in the
I don't
commercial.
have a problem, I don't have a problem with that.
I
You
might
may just have to.
just
tweak
use Jared's
that.
documents that he's, and swap names, and put the county, on, the Home Finance Authority as the, the entity, and we can move. We can move just as fast.
Well, and I think it certainly helps the county to have that in their name and any recognition that may go with it. And we should if we're providing funds. I don't disagree with that at all. Any more discussion? So you need a motion on 3 and then a motion on 4.
Yes, so 4, I'll say, is the standard sub-agreement that the county's entered into with PBA, jail trust, whatever, as they've allocated ARPA funds. So that's a form document. We just don't have a copy of it yet because it hadn't been, sent to us, but that gives us, instead of having to wait until May for, our next scheduled meeting, we could go ahead and once we get that finalized and approved at BOCC, then we could be in a position to execute, transfer funds, and get this project out the road.
I don't think there's any reason to believe the BOCC won't. I mean, they seem fine with everything going there a couple months ago.
Yeah, they wanted it to go through the portal. It's been through the portal. It's been vetted for eligibility. We're in good shape.
Hey, John, you willing to make a motion on item 3?
I move that we approve item number 3. What do I need to do to adjust this resolution, or just state that it's our desire that more than 2 projects be allocated funds? That's the only thing I'd like to see changed. And that the county be listed, I guess, instead of the city. Right?
That'd be on the administration agreements.
Yeah.
Right, direct agreements.
Now, the city will still receive the little small admin fee for this.
Mhm.
The city of Oklahoma, you'll receive the admin fees for this, okay? Okay,
And the city will administer.
right.
We need that in the motion, I think.
Yeah.
Anything else you can think of, John?
No.
You good with his motion? You got it all? Okay.
It's awesome.
You're
Any
okay with
more comments? You all good with all that?
But yeah, we'll work
It's
with
okay to
Jared.
say no.
We'll work with Jared on reviewing the details. I'm still a little unclear how we would be sub-recipients if you're gonna be directly entering into the agreements with the
We'll-
funding, but
we'll figure it out.
We'll work it out. We'll figure it out.
You're smart. I trust that you'll get that done. And Ed, you can help if you need to. All right, any more discussion? Call for the question. All in favor, aye. Aye.
Who seconded that?
Oh, I'm sorry. I seconded it. I'm not used to that because
Okay.
being the chairman, I try to not.
Okay,
So put it down that I seconded that. I apologize.
I gotcha.
Now we'll call for the question. All in favor, aye. Aye. Let the record show that carried unanimously. Item number 4, John, you want to make a motion on that?
so move.
And I don't think we need any changes on that, right, Jared? I will second agenda item number 4. Any discussion? Call for the question. All in favor, aye. Aye.
Aye.
The record show that too carried unanimously. That moves us on to agenda item number 5, which is discussion and possible action with respect to authorizing a public hearing pertaining to the development of a single-family mortgage revenue bond program. Mark, is that one on you or Ed?
It might start with, it might start with, TEFRA hearings when it's closed.
So as everybody knows, you gave me authorization to apply for some carry forward cap last year. As a larger county, Oklahoma and Tulsa County also have the ability to apply for statutory cap every year as well. And this has really just kind of been born out of conversations of, as interest rates continue to creep up, does it make sense for the county to reinitiate a single family mortgage revenue bond structure tax exempt program? And so this is just kind of a discussion item. It would still take some time to process, and really we would be restarting the program from scratch. All of our existing documents have lapsed. We would be looking at a new base indenture, to kind of kick off the program, and kind of structuring wise and all that kind of stuff. But if it's the desire of the trustees to explore this further, wanted you to have some information today on what the market looks like, some recent history of deals that have been completed. OFA is expected to be in the market with a single family bond issue in the next 3 weeks. That can give us some additional context. But from the time you say go, I want you to know it's going to take me some time to develop documentation wise and, all of those kinds of things to get going. And so I just wanted us to have I wanted myself to have as long of a runway as possible selfishly to execute the trust wishes.
Well, I think we would want that too, so we know it's done right.
Yeah.
And Mark, what little I've been involved in just seeing emails going back and forth with various entities, I know thank you all for coming. I know it's not nearly as easy to do a program now as it might have been in years past, so and I know you all have done one with a issuer recently, so can you address the new landscape for us and let us know what opportunities there and what risks are there?
Sure. Be happy to. Thank you, David, board member, staff. Yes, I'm Mark O'Brien with Raymond James. As you know, the bond market basically since 2008, 9, 10 was very difficult to do a single family bond program for state or local issuers. So you all did nothing on the bond side from basically 2010 on. We did put in place your turnkey program, which is not a bond program, that's a non-bond program, TBA based, daily setting of the market, hedging and delivering the loans. And that program obviously went very well. You did $111 million, basically in less than 8 years. So that program has been very successful, but the market has turned on that too now, right? So in other words, we either don't have offerings available or they're quite high rate for the assistance provided.
So, John, I think the best we've done in the past several months, say 6, is one day we had 2 interest rates to offer. Normally we have none because they're all priced at a loss to us.
That's correct. So we did. So I hope and expect that TBA program will come back, but we've been waiting for a while now, right? So I'm hoping that we get to a spot where the market will allow us to price that properly, to maybe do a few tweaks to the program, to lender income, to whatever, maybe doing a few tweaks that allows us to get some more rates on board and having lenders participate in the program. But the bond market has come back quite a bit, but the only folks who have been doing it are state agencies, basically, who have very quick origination and deep pockets. They can fund negative arbitrage and cost of issuance at the front end. Hopefully the program originates quickly, is successful, and they have a good program and they make money out of the money they put up into it. What we did mention though was that the Texas State Affordable Housing Corporation, which is really a local issuer, I think this is the first local issuer that has done a single family bond program in over, I don't know that any have been done in the last 3 or 4 years. So if there is, it's maybe one. It may be in Florida. But this $60 million Texas State Affordable Housing, I had mentioned to Ed and to Jared and to David that it was coming, and it did come. We closed at the end of last month, so it's about 3 weeks old. For the Texas State Affordable Housing Corporation, that is a larger issuer, probably the largest local. It really can lend effectively statewide in the state of Texas. It's got deep pockets. Did a $60 million issue, it went very well, and so basically what Jared and Ed asked was, well, can you model something that would look sort of like a TSHAC deal? Does that work? And I'd say that and that's what we've done, by the way. On very short notice, I didn't realize this meeting was occurring till Friday afternoon, so it was we put this together rather hastily. But if you look at the one-page summary there are many good things about this potential program. This is all data as of yesterday, by the way, March 14th, kind of based on our Texas State Affordable Housing or TSHAC issue. So what we were assuming was a sale date of May 1st. That wouldn't happen that quickly, but just to give you something to think about. And then closing a loan later June 1st. The volume cap would be 100% new money for the state, what they call PAB or private activity bond volume cap, which you have now, and carry forward the $27.5 million from 2022, and I think another $27.5 million potentially for 2023. Estimated cost of issuance, we base that also on the TSHAC deal, $220,000 or 1.1% plus or minus of the. So that's all is so good so far. You'll see when it gets bad. And it's for let's go back to number 7 where the mortgage rate had been yesterday. We were pricing 6.37% with 3.5% down payment assistance grant. That was also at assuming 2.5% net income to the lenders, which is if we did a higher, the mortgage rate would be higher.
And John, just so you know, we've been struggling to post rates in the 7s to compare to that 6.37.
Right. So the down payment assistance structure, I've just put that 3.5%, which is what you normally do. That's net to the home buyer, no origination fee, no discount. I think that you have yours is on our grant right now. I think if we were to do this, the bondholders might require us to have at least a forgivable second mortgage on the property. We'll see. But what I assume is 0% due on sale, second mortgage for that amount that would forgive $136 per month. So they stay in the house for 3 years, and that's all. They don't owe anything back. So basically,
The very first DBA program we ever did, which was our own fund, we had I think a 5-year forgiveness on it.
right.
If I recall correctly.
Right. Expected origination, I assumed $4 or $5 million, a $20 million issue, therefore doing $4 or $5 million deliveries every 3 months. Another $5 million gets delivered. That's not just reserved, but actually loan gets reserved, closed, delivered to the servicer, which we assume for the moment is U.S. Bank, who's your current servicer on the TBA program as well, and delivered into Ginnie Mae's. We've assumed all Ginnie Mae, by the way, on this for a couple of reasons too, but that's been most of the production anyway.
Yeah, probably 98% of
right.
it.
Yeah, very few conventional loans. So what's the problem? It all sounds good, right? What's the problem? The problem is the cash for what we call negative arbitrage would be in the $1.2 million range. Why is that? Well, when we issue these bonds, as an example, on June 1st, we've got $20 million of bonds outstanding, but we don't have any mortgages, right? We've got to invest that money someplace to pay the bondholder during the origination, that first 12 months as the loans are originating. The problem is that we would investing in treasuries, as based on yesterday, at a 4.43% rate over that whole 12 months, but you're paying interest on bonds as high as 6%. So that's what we call negative arbitrage. It was okay for TSHAC to deal with it because they basically originated the deal in about a month, and we assumed that they were going to get it all done. I think the whole $60 billion delivered half of it in 3 months, the remaining $30 million in 6 months, right? That was the assumption. That's what they put cash up for. They're going to get almost all that back because it's originated so quickly. So this is the part that makes it tough. What we call negative arbitrage. It would have been prohibitive just last year, David. Remember when short-term rates were so low and you couldn't get anywhere near 4.43% on treasuries for a 12-month window. There's a few things that might work to make that more, make the medicine go down. Well, and if you had $20 million in the bank, you might say, okay, this makes sense to me, but you don't have that kind of money in the bank. because this all would work and you'd get your money back and it would be a nice investment, but it's still a huge outlay, right? You know, over 800,000 net out of your funds to do a $20 million issue. So we could do a smaller issuer size, or somehow if we assumed that faster origination would occur, or if we could get a bondholder to accept a step coupon, take 4.5% during the first 12 months and then step to a higher rate, which we've done in the past. That's been a long time, so we've done something esoteric. Have the bondholder, when Fannie Mae used to buy all these, David, you should recall way back in the early days, we could do all this fancy stuff. They were huge buyers. Hey, how about we, we'll just, you take the origination risk, we'll have you pay a lower rate, step up to a little higher rate. It's keep these local issuers from having to put up hundreds of thousands of dollars in negative arbitrage. I'm not sure that wouldn't work to go back to a bondholder right now and say, hey, listen, we're trying to do this for a local HFA, and what do you think? But as it is right now, without doing something else to curb some of this negative arbitrage, I think it would be a tough hill to climb for Oklahoma HFA to try to do this without us figuring out some other way to deal with the negative arbitrage. So if you all agree with that, I certainly work with Jared. We'll talk to some of our bond underwriting desks, see if there's any sort of esoteric accounts or maybe a mid-first bank or somebody who wants CRA credit and say, oh, I'll buy those bonds and I'll do some of that kind of tricky stuff that you want to do, or, because I'm buying the whole thing, the way Fannie Mae would do creative stuff with us to make a local HFA program more viable. So I'll stop there and tell you that I think this is a great program, but for the negative arbitrage costs, and I would recommend it, but for that. And if you all would like us to see if there's some other way we can try to skin the cat, be happy to go back to our investors and bondholders and see if there's something we can do creative that will make this work, or give us some direction as to what the authority could stomach in terms of an outlay to try to get a program done. And Jared, anything to add? We do these kind of deals all the time for Oklahoma HFA, but once again, they've got the deep pockets and fast origination, and they know it's going to originate. In fact, sometimes they originate before that deal gets priced and it gets delivered in.
Yeah. I was going to say, maybe a hedge, in some of that is, OFA has been originating quickly, because there's not another player in the game, right? What they haven't done recently, but they always have, like in their back pocket, is they authorize every year a line of credit with Federal Home Loan Bank. And basically that gives them a short-term, place to warehouse some loans if they need to. And, that could be, an option for us, if maybe, explored that, an origination line with Federal Home Loan Bank of Topeka, accumulate a number of loans. We have 18 months from the date that the first loan gets dropped in to collapse those into, a bond deal. And that kind of takes some of the initial cash outlay risk, off the table, because the mortgage is servicing itself, on the Federal Home Loan line. And then we get to that, 18-month period, and we see how much we've got, in the line that we could either take out, if the market makes sense, we take it out and dump it into a tax exempt program. If it doesn't make sense, then we drop it right back into the TBA program, and we're no worse for the wear. There's a few more onerous, requirements on the documentation side, income limits, purchase price limits, all of those kinds of things. But the reality is our originations as, home finance haven't exceeded those bounds traditionally anyway. And so that the only trick there is I just need a reimbursement resolution in place and a TEFRA hearing. That way we can go, kind of jump through, that side. Of course, the biggest risk with that is interest rate risk, right? What happens if you price, you're originating mortgages today at 637, and then we have a recession and the market tanks, and you come back and they want out, or conversely, you know, rates go up and you're missing the opportunity for the spread that, you know, you're leaving money on the table essentially.
But we're also assuming an origination speed as well, and I have big questions about that. I mean, John, you and I talked about that. The market is just dead. I mean, understand the dynamics that have occurred in the last 2 years in the single family market in America and also Oklahoma City. I mean, I've seen numbers, don't quote me precisely, but between 22 and 29% of the homes sold last year were purchased by corporate entities. So there's a huge shift in the market. Corporate America is buying single family homes for cash. They took off 25% off the board of the available houses last year in Oklahoma City. Interest rates are high, and there hadn't been a rebalance of interest rate versus house price yet to make that dynamic work very well. I mean, it's still not affordable. So, I mean, you know, when Mark and I talked about this, I just ballparked 20 million. Now I just pulled out of thin air. It's like, okay, you know, when we historically in good times did tax exempts, we would do 10 to 15 million at a time, and it would take us about 18 months to do that, to originate 100% of that volume. So there's a big question here. I mean, on one hand, it is, you know, philosophically better to be in the market than not in the market, meaning that we have a tax exempt product available, but we have to be really cognizant of the risks that are going to go with that, because we're in strange times right now with interest rates, and, you know, hopefully no more bank contagion, but who knows what's going on with that? We may have some more bank runs and bank closings. And the Fed is still talking about raising their rates, maybe at 25 basis points at a time, but that's not off the table. I mean, if you just looked at the macro scenario right now, the Fed's going to continue raising interest rates because inflation is still running hot. So, you know, you really have to factor that in. Of course, we could then have a complete financial collapse and all bets are off. I mean, it's a really, really dicey period to be dealing in this particular market because it's so interest rate sensitive and sensitive to the capacity of our given little population of Oklahoma County, 900,000 or however many we have at this point, and the market that's there to, you know, people buying houses. It's you know, it's something we needed to talk about. It needs to be out there, and we need to have this as a running conversation if, in fact, we don't go ahead and move forward with it.
Yeah.
It's something we need to talk about. Right?
Well, just because you say go doesn't mean we're committed to anything. You know, but that, again, that just kind of gives me the runway I need to start putting the pieces.
You talking about the TEPR hearing?
Yes, TEPR hearing, you know,
That's really what's on
kind of the belt and suspenders, you know, kind of thing.
I think we should go there. To put my lender hat on for a second, lenders are creatures of habit. I've heard Leanne say this before. When she was at OHFA, she and her team did some things that made their program in some respects more preferable than our program, and lenders knew that. And an example of one of those things was they put together their own code compliance, and you could deliver the documents to them, you could talk to them. It was a little bit easier process than the e-housing process. And lenders, if they're going to make about the same thing out of either program, 100% of the time they're going to choose the path of least resistance and the one that works better. So I think if we do go through and do this, there's some things on our end. She and I had lunch. We talked about some things, and you know, I think there's some opportunities on our end to redress some of the stuff that we do and make it different and make it more appealing to lenders. But they're creatures of habit. They get used to what they're doing. We would have to get them back into that habit, I think, no question. But I would very much like to see us at least have a discussion and authorize you to go forward and see what opportunities we have. And we don't have deep pockets and we can't do everything OHFA can do. We know that. We'll always be their little brother or sister, and that's okay. But I also think just to say, well, we can't do this anymore, then why do we have a need to have the authority at all? Why don't we just wind down the programs we have and call it good?
You know, and I'm not sure, like, Leanne, what's the, OFA's originating $120 million in a taxi debt program every year.
$10 million a month, I think.
Like, what do you think the proportionate size of Oklahoma County originations is? Just historically, not
Well,
asking you to know that.
I can talk about when I was there. Oklahoma County is, one of the top producers, and they do at least anywhere from 50 to 70% of the origination in their issue.
Oklahoma County.
Oklahoma County. So if Oklahoma OCHFA has an opportunity to do the same thing, then you effectively can give lenders another opportunity to utilize funds other than OHFA. The other part is that OHFA's current program now has a hard second on their down payment assistance. And that hard second is that if they sell or refinance a house in the life of whenever they own that home, they have to pay all that down payment assistance back. I've heard from many lenders since I left, because I started that after I left, that they really don't like the hard second because it's really, really hard for first-time home buyers to comprehend that not only are they getting down payment assistance, but now they got a hard second on that, and they don't remember that when they go sell that house. And if they're selling that house for upside down, then they're going to have to come up with $6,000 or $8,000 to even come out from underneath that, and they don't remember that. So if you could structure a program, in my opinion, that has something that has gift funds or something that has where it's forgivable, then I think your avenue to move the money is a lot better than what it was, in my personal opinion. Do I think that the market's going to be hard? Yes. Do I think that you're going to have hard times because the housing houses, as mentioned, are horrible at this time? Yeah, I do. Do I think you're going to move some of it? Yes, I do. So the streamlining of documents, I did that over at OHFA. I have those underneath my umbrella, so does he. All they have to do is just go in there and move them forward. And in regards to e-housing, I think you can polish that up a little bit where it's not as ugly as what you think it is. And it's all in the cell, my personal opinion. That I think I probably said more than you wanted me to say.
No, it's great. Thank you. Yeah, all good stuff.
A footnote, our to be announced down payment fund is segregated institutionally. It is handled by Bank First. So those funds are separate from and institutionally separated. And there is enough left in that TBA fund to go forward at the rate we were funding it when we were active a year ago.
Sure.
So the discussion about potential impact on TBA availability can be zeroed out because there will be no impact on it. It's totally segregated, separate pot of money.
And as I mentioned also, Ed, there are things we can also look at tweaking on the TBA, what we got called Turnkey Plus program, to make it more attractive. If we were to, or at least have some offerings on the board, you all already subsidize it, right? But if you were to dial back the lender income from 3.25 to temporarily to 250 or something, all of a sudden it's at 75 basis points. All of a sudden you get some points on the board. There's various things we can do to make that, or you can even subsidize it more, but take a little bit more of a loss on each loan and therefore. So that would be an easier way to try it. And once again, if you don't make loans, you don't spend any money either. In other words, but so there could be some things we could talk about, tweaks to try to get the TBA program going to, and talk with lenders and say, hey, if we did A, B, and C with this help, or could you deal with this kind of rate?
I think the point I would reiterate, I think Mark would say the same thing, is the most successful HFAs run both programs and have the interoperability to switch between the two as the market moves. Because it's a very fluid thing, right?
Especially right now.
Yeah, and you don't want to be, if we're stuck holding the bag on one, then that affects effectively puts us out of business.
Yeah, well, and there are times where a taxable program may apply better in a situation. Maybe they need higher income limits
That's
as an
exactly right.
example.
Yeah.
I mean,
Not a first-time
I think,
home buyer.
I think it makes sense to do both.
Well, make no mistake, OFA here several years ago, when I was there, they wanted to do away with the tax exempt program. They looked at the TBA program and that was their cash cow. That was the one that was bringing all the money to them, and it was quite a little fight that I had. And I said, TBAs will be here for a while and they'll always be here. But they're gonna go up and down in regards to the revenue you make on them. Tax exempt is what we would call, it's your savings account. It's the ones that's gonna make you long-term money on the end. And if you unload that, then you are hurting yourself. So we went ahead and kept the single family program as it was with the tax exempt to make sure that we offered both. And sure enough, when I left last year, I said, the market's gonna tank. You're gonna have to issue bonds. They do, because the market has tanked.
Except they've got a hard second on it and it's a tough sell.
Oh, it is a tough sale. I mean, because we had these gift funds and we sold PAC bonds to raise the gift funds. And we did everything from Federal Home Loan Bank. The lenders would originate the loans. We'd move the loans to Federal Home Loan Bank. They would sit there until we could do a pool. We could either do a pool out and settle out in Ginnie Mae, or if we were tax exempt, they would sit there until we got ready to issue bonds. And you have 18 months to do that. So Federal Home Loan Bank was the warehouse line where we dropped all the loans. But once they moved to the second mortgage, it's made it very difficult for the lenders to, number one, it's you have to sell it. I mean, you truly have to sell it. And I mean, the lenders, I'll be honest with you, they still call me and go, we can't believe they're doing a second mortgage. And I understand why they did. And the real reason is they did a second mortgage to see if they could lower the rate to get a better deal. And also, the bondholders probably are looking at that as a second mortgage as an avenue to take less of their risk.
Yeah, the loans will stay out longer.
It eliminates some of their risk.
Prepayment risk.
Yes, and it does eliminate some of their risk. But you know what? A forgivable second would do the same thing.
It would, and I remember you and I had a conversation personally in my family. My daughter and son-in-law bought a house in Cleveland County, so they used Oklahoma County. It was in the deed restriction days, and they sold it before the 5-year period was up, and they actually had to her story, write a check at closing to make up for what they didn't get in sales proceeds with the real estate commission and the deed restriction, selling the house generically 3 years or so after they bought it.
So a lot of it burned, some of it burned off.
Oh, yeah.
Some of it, not all of it. It was a small check, $2,000-3,000, but been there, done that.
It wasn't nothing.
No, and I'm not opposed to a second mortgage for given over 36 months if that makes the nut easier to do. I would like to see us stay away from the deed restriction or a second mortgage that stays out there for
FHA
the life
doesn't like
of
the
the
deed
loan.
restriction.
Not at all.
I got my hands slapped on that. They don't like the deed restriction. They like the second mortgage.
I believe I was the lender that got
Yeah, you
slapped
did.
on that.
Yeah, at Spirit, you sure
They
did.
came in and audited us, and they said, you all get A pluses. They didn't say it that way, but they said, you pass everything you did, but this deed restriction is illegal, and I got Leanne on the phone and said FHA's all
I
over
called
me.
FHA. It was ugly.
Is that just kind of gone away?
What, the deed restriction?
The federal, we went through a period with that where they said, you have to give the money away, you can't do a second. And then it's kind of petered back into the.
Well, I think what happens is that you get new people looking at the documents, and you have a new brain coming in and looking at the documents, and you might have approved those documents 6 years ago, and this new brain comes in and looks and goes, oh, wait a minute, we gotta look at these differently because it says this and this.
Leanne had FHA's approval on the deed restriction before they
Yes.
ever did it, and they didn't care when it came to my audit.
They didn't care.
They didn't care. Okay, I remember that.
No, they didn't care. And the other part of it is that my office had flooded out of it. The toilet upstairs had flooded, so all my documents were on my table. They got all ruined. So I couldn't prove it to them because I'm hard copy that. I like hard copies.
Okay,
Yeah, I just assumed the 3-year forgivable for the bond programs. I thought the bondholders would require it, but I don't know.
I'm
You're
not
correct.
sure.
I think
I
we
don't
should
know if
look at it.
bondholders would require it, but I think the sellability would probably be.
I think we need to look at it with and without, because I think the negative arbitrage would be much higher without. I may be wrong.
Yeah, and well, and also, your current program, it's just outright grant. Remember, you did that back in 20, and that's when we had that spike of extra, we did another 20 million or 15 million in a short period of time.
So do you guys have your lenders fund the down payment assistance at closing and then you reimburse them?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. And your trustee bank is Bank First?
Right.
No, yes?
For TBA is like, yeah.
I've got, well, give me 5 minutes.
Okay, no problem.
You can continue. You don't have to wait for me.
So, on agenda item number 5, I think he basically just needs us to say, yep, we want you to look at it. And there's no particular action item on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he's looking for authorization for TEFRA hearing, which is just a box to check.
And just because we authorize it, it doesn't mean it's gonna happen. It just means you all can run the numbers and let us know.
Yeah, I think what he's looking for, maybe is just to go forward with or authorize a public hearing pertaining to a single family program and to authorize, underwriter and bond counsel to explore further options with.
Yeah,
And that's my impression as well, but we can table that and move, I think, to item 6, and then we can get back on item 5 when he's back in the room.
Yep.
Everyone okay with that?
6 is, council. So, I mean, you're just updating signatories. But, yeah, we need, 5 is an action item.
Yeah, he was saying that maybe.
And we need to go ahead and, I think we need to go ahead and pull the trigger on it,
Okay,
so I can, start documentation.
Oh, yeah, no, I think that's what David wanted to do. He just wanted Jared to come
I
back.
want Jared, just to make sure that we got it right before we
Okay,
make the
okay.
motion.
I think he's asking for a TEFRA hearing is what he's asking for, but,
That's my impression as well.
Yeah,
so we'll come
well,
back.
I meant doing it today.
Oh, yeah, as soon as he comes
Yeah.
back in, I think we'll come back to 5 as
Yeah.
David's plan, I think.
Okay, well, on 6, Ed, do you know on the signatories what that entails?
It's documentation with the council's office. I recommend we move to 7.
Okay, let's table 5 and 6 until Jared's back in the room. Agenda item 7 is discussion and possible action with respect to reclassifying the executive director position of the authority from full-time to half-time and designated the official dress of the authority to the offices of general counsel, which Jared knows about and is okay with on the address
Right.
piece. So Ed, you wanna tell us why that item's on there? Not that we all don't already know.
Yeah, well, I will complete 20 years of employment with this trust on March 31st. So I'm submitting my retirement to you. And my preference, I want it to be known, is that I don't come back on April 1st. But given the amount of
Well,
time.
hell, this is easy.
Given that there's some transition issues here, I'm willing to work for free, part-time, whatever. Whatever it takes to make the trust workable after the 31st. I have no problems with. I don't need to be employed. My preference is that I'm actually not part-time, but that I'm just continuing to help with the transition. And what I'm recommending is that we move the legal address of the trust to Jared's office, which it has been 21 East Main for the last 18 or so years. That office is a lease office from a law firm that year to year doesn't know whether they're going to stay in the building they're in. So I'm recommending we transfer the legal address to Jared's office so that all formal documentation and listings, particularly with upcoming bond issues, have a legal address and it be Jared's office. At any time the trust decides to open an office again somewhere, you can move it to that office address. This is a temporary solution in a transfer of mortgage. That's the primary issue. I mean, the timing of this it has to do with everything we've been talking about today, which is we're not originating mortgages. We have not originated a TBA mortgage in 12 months. And it's because the market is so chaotic that we can't price the TBA type of mortgage at a rate that isn't a loss to the trust. It has dipped over the past couple of months. It dipped, as David said, a couple of days into positive territory, but it popped right back up. So and for that to be a workable program again, even if we get a positive rate, it's going to have to stay there for a month before lenders can trust it to be something they can use. Because if it's popping up and down out of negative and positive territory, so it's a perfect time for me to retire. It's a perfect time for the trust to rethink the direction they want to take. All the discussions we've had today about origination are absolutely pertinent going forward. And I'm here, John, as I told you, I'm here. I will stay for as long as it takes for the trust to do whatever it wants. And I don't need to be paid to do that, unless you guys want to have that formal relationship. I really want to cut the string on March 31st. But I will help with whatever. If you need me legally to be employed, then that's okay. That's fine. We can decide something about an employment status or a contract or whatever. But I'm here to tell you. I'm telling you that I will stay working for whatever the trust wants as its direction. Because it's just a strange time. I mean, there isn't enough work because we're not originating. There isn't enough work to support a full-time position. That's the bottom line. Will there be in the future? Maybe. And that's as far as I'm going to take it. Maybe not.
Okay.
I mean, there's no guarantee that the interest rates for mortgages and the TBA program aren't going to continue going up for another 12 months. There's nothing to say that the TBA will be available for another 12 months. So I'm just saying, I understand you guys all have your own thoughts on this, and I'm not here to argue with you at all. I'm just here to say, I'll do whatever it takes, move the trust forward, keep the trust whole, keep the workflow going, make sure everybody knows where all the bodies are buried. We just go on down the road. So,
John?
Okay.
Thoughts?
Okay. My thoughts and position about this is that, number one, I think this trust has great potential in the field of housing, be it multifamily, single family, whatever. I think it has potentials to do other things other than just what we've done, basically, since I've been here. And in light of that, I think, number one, that we need to consider coming up with a job description for a full-time position, and that position be for other things that are allowed that the trust can do under the trust indenture. And I think once we decide what the job description is, if Jared has a job description or have one that would encompass some of the things that we can do under the trust indenture, that we take a look at that. We, come up with a job description, for full-time to pursue other housing programs other than what we're doing now. I think that if we were able to come up with a job description, then we could advertise for that position and we could see what candidates that would work for that position. And if we select a person for that position, then if we're moving forward with the bond issue and so forth, then if Ed is around to shadow this person for 30 or 60 days of what Ed is doing right now on a day-to-day basis, I think he should be paid for that. He has indicated that he wants to retire. And I appreciate him staying on either as a part-time person with or without pay. I think if he stays on, we need to compensate him at some level. But I do think that we need to look at a job description that would be in accordance with our trust indenture for other programs that we could pursue to provide housing for Oklahoma County.
Okay.
That's my position, and we set a salary to where we would get a good viable candidate for that position, and maybe a part-time assistant, not necessarily a clerical support for that position. And time-wise, if we could get a job description, this 15, by the, let's say, by the 1st of April, we can take a look at it. And if we agree to that, then we can go out for applications for maybe 3 weeks, see what we get. And if we get a good viable application, then we can bring them to our May meeting, or if necessary, call a special meeting, but to our May meeting, and we can decide if we want to hire that person to move forward. I just think that this trust has potential to do a lot in the areas of affordable housing.
Okay. John, I agree with everything you said, but I have one caveat to add to that, or suggestion. I think if we go post the position, and I think we should do that, I would like to open it up to part-time or full-time to see what we have available. And if it is part-time, we always have the opportunity to scale that into full-time as additional opportunities and programs come up. But the part-time with Jared's office, and I just think from a cost standpoint, I would rather say let's go see and get the best person we can, and let's not dictate that can be a full-time only or part-time. Let's try and see who applies and see what makes sense, and hopefully more than one person will apply.
Okay, if that is the case, then what I'm hearing you saying is that we're advertising for a position that would perhaps do all of these duties and have these responsibilities. This position may be full-time, maybe part-time or full-time. When we go out to advertise, that's what you're saying.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I don't have a problem with that.
And the reason I bring that up, Ed and I have had a lot of conversations. Today's not the first day I don't think any of us have known about his desire to retire. He's been running that flag up the pole for a couple of years now and letting us know that this day's coming. But given the fact that we aren't originating if the new person doesn't have to dedicate time to those origination deals, and he or she can dedicate time to finding opportunities, I think it can start as part-time potentially with the ability to grow it into more of a full-time later. I mean, we're fortunate enough now, as an example, with full-time, we don't have to worry about insurance with Eddie. He had an opportunity to get insurance that we didn't have to provide, and I just think the full-time piece is gonna require more setup on our part. So I'm not saying we shouldn't do it. I'm just saying we should advertise. Let's get the best person and see what fits their schedule and what
Okay,
works
if
for us
we-
as well.
Okay, if we advertise, and I don't have a problem with that. We advertise and we get Jesus walking in the door and we decide that's who we want, but it's gonna be a full-time position in order to get this position. Are we still open at that time to, if this person, whoever it is, impress us to the point to where we think this person can do all those things and we're willing to try the position full time? Can we decide at that time instead of saying, no, we're only gonna keep a part-time person?
Absolutely, we can. I
Okay,
mean, I think we can do
okay,
whatever we want. I just,
that's what I.
but from the full-time standpoint, I think we need to sit down with the county and talk about benefits. And I mean, if I remember Obamacare right, and I've been retired a couple of years, so things could have changed, but if you work more than 30 hours a week, you have to be provided insurance. There are some steps on the full-time side that I think would take some effort on our part to do. And that doesn't preclude us from hiring a full-time person. It just means we would have to explore that as we go forward.
When this, John, when this position was opened and approved originally, it has no benefits. No benefits come with this position. I provided my own health insurance, and the trust executed an agreement with the national, what used to be called City County Managers Association.
ICMA.
ICMA, for a 457 program between the trust and ICMA for my retirement. So that was executed. There are no county benefits. There's no long-term disability, no short-term disability, no county retirement. There are no benefits with this position set up. So if you go with a full-time person, you're going to have to figure out a way to create a benefit system that's going to attract the kind of person who's going to say, yeah, I'll be happy to work full-time because I know I'm getting a retirement system. I've got vacation days, I've got healthcare days, I've got all of this stuff that traditional jobs have. This job had none of those.
I agree. And once a job description is sent out, then we can take a look at what type of benefits we're willing to provide this person, whether they're full-time or part-time. We can, before we finalize the job description, we can determine what benefits that we're going to provide.
I brought a couple of examples just from other recent deals that as a starting point.
Okay. And by the way, we table 5 and 6 to you.
Okay.
We're not done with those.
Okay. So
We will vote on those shortly. So what did you bring to give us as an example?
These are just ones I pulled off the internet. To be honest with you, one
Seven
is
copies.
like City County. Yeah, there's several copies. City County of Sarasota, Rhode Island housing. You know, as a I mean, we could probably pull OFA's postings, whatever. I searched our online database and I could not find like the original posting from when Ed was hired. So
okay.
those are
This
just
at least gives us something to look at. And,
yeah. I
and
mean,
list the salary. I mean, it
we can
provides some opportunity.
put as much of this or as little of this as you want, but this just these were two I found in short order this morning as I was running out the door. So
And what we've discussed while you're out of the room is and John, please chime in if I don't get it right, that we're going to advertise for the position, and we're not gonna dictate whether it needs to be a full-time or a part-time person. We'll let the opportunity help us dictate that. But in essence, go out and advertise, hopefully get some candidates that have experience and are willing to look at it. And if that person wants to be a full-time person, we'll consider that. If that person wants to be a part-time person and doesn't need benefits, we'll consider that.
Okay.
But let it be the best person we can find, and then structure the opportunity based on that individual, if that makes sense. John, is that
Yes,
fair?
that's fine, that's fine. Meanwhile, since Ed has, and Ed wants out, since Ed has agreed that, he's indicated, and he said it twice today, he wants his last day to be the end of this month. But if he can stay on, I think we need to, if he's willing to stay on, which he said he is, to do it part-time, and he'll be able to work from home.
Okay, so let me suggest this. Let me suggest we vote on item 7. And then we can discuss Ed being on a part-time work from home basis if he wants to do that.
That's fine.
Okay, so John, are you willing to make a motion on item 7?
Yes, so moved.
As we've discussed, advertise for the position and let the position dictate the full-time or part-time.
Okay, now, we can, okay, let me ask this of Jared. Can we go through here and make recommendations and send them to you and Ed to come up with a job description that we can advertise for?
absolutely, yeah.
Okay,
I mean, I can try and meld those two together, kind of fit it.
okay.
Go through like our trust purposes,
Okay, that's fine.
That would be wonderful.
But
That would be great.
I wanted you to
That
see
would be
where
great.
I was starting from,
Okay.
that I'm just not pulling this stuff out of thin air.
Okay.
Certainly,
Right.
neither of us can speak for Herschel, but I think Herschel would be comfortable with that as well. Would you agree, John?
Yes, I would. Okay.
Okay,
that's
so I
fine.
will second your motion on item number 7. Is there any more discussion? Call for the question. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Let the record show that continued or carried unanimously. Now, Ed, with respect to the part-time deal until we can find a person, if it could be work from home and scaled to whatever's appropriate in terms of hours and pay, are you willing to work on that, or you would
Yeah, no,
rather just
I
have
would-
done in March?
Well, this is one of those weird non-hourly positions, so if you want me to stay on part-time, I would recommend we just cut my salary in 2, and that'll BOK pays my salary out of the BOK trust. Those instructions would be easy for them
That's
to
fine.
deal with. They wouldn't have to go through a bunch of other, so just cut it in half. And I mean, this is such a random position. As you all well know, the office phone stays forwarded to my cell phone. If I get a call at 3 in the afternoon and I'm working part-time, I'm gonna answer it. If I'm working full-time, I'm gonna answer it. So, I mean, it's just a strange beast, but nothing, I will continue to do what I'm doing. And there will be no drop off in what I'm doing. I mean, I will just continue until you guys nail everything down,
Okay.
and we'll go from there. The day that person starts is the day I can quit.
Okay, John, you okay with that as a motion,
Fine, I'm
half-time
fine with
salary
that.
and working from home?
Can we back up, and would you entertain a friendly amendment to your motion to go ahead and designate the trust authority office as my office, at the address of my office?
I need the motion to formally be 1/2 so that
Yeah.
the OK has documentation.
Gotcha.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
we've already discussed the office and we're fine with that.
Okay.
It wasn't
That-
a motion though.
Yeah, it wasn't in the motion,
Motion,
so I
In the motion,
just a friendly to, make sure
I
that's
wanna
clear.
make sure I spoke properly for you while you're outside the room. I said you and I had discussed that and you were comfortable with your address being used
Yes.
as our address.
Yes.
I spoke correctly, I hope.
And I guess part of the motion is also halving of the salary starting on 4/1.
Mm-hmm,
Yes, yes, yes,
Sorry for sharing.
all
okay.
of that,
You good on that?
yes.
You
Yes,
good too?
yes.
Okay. So
She's
I
the
will
one that has to
second
be
that.
happy. Yeah. I try to
Go
keep
ahead,
sharing.
call for the question, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Let the record show that carried. That now moves us back to item number 5, which I think we were mostly finished discussing. We just want to make sure, however you need the motion structured to proceed, that you're good on it. I think we're okay to do that.
What is 5? I'm so sorry.
5 is the
That's the Tepper hearing.
HEPA hearing.
Okay. So yeah, just
Go forward.
go forward.
So
yeah,
if we authorize you to do that, you can work on it, but it doesn't
that's right.
mandate you or us for anything.
That's exactly
other
right.
than
So-
explore it.
We would go ahead. We'd go ahead and go through the notice. We would publish, appropriately in the newspaper. We would set, a hearing date. Have
Starting
that,
the wheels.
have
of
that
motion.
hearing, kick that, down, and I would probably do the Tepper hearing for up to $50 million, just to give us, plenty of leeway. The Tepper is good for a year from the date you adopt it. We have carry forward. I would anticipate if the market makes sense, we could do another carry forward application at the end of the year and bank some carry forward, kind of for the
Okay.
years going forward. So that, again, that just kind of gives me the runway.
And bond counsel and underwriter will be exploring options with respect to structure, et cetera, including on the SMTBA side too.
Uh-huh.
And in essence, you all are doing that for free, hoping that the program comes to fruition and on the other side, you can get your income.
When have you ever seen it go for us?
We have,
So you guys are betting on the come.
there you go.
That's right.
John, you okay with everything Jared said? I will second it, and you're good on the minutes, right?
Yes.
With where we need to be on the motion?
What was this motion for number 5?
That's for 5.
Number 5,
Just to authorize.
to authorize the hearing.
Okay.
Do you need a scanned copy of that?
All right. All in favor, aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Let the record show that carried. And Jared, we were told while you were out that you're also item 6, the
This
signatories.
is also me for item 6. I don't know if the real impetus for this is our banker at Bank of Oklahoma has changed. And she's taken another position outside of the bank. And so I want to make sure we have the most up-to-date signature card on file with them. So if Ed is out of pocket and we need somebody to, sign stuff, then that either we need to make sure we've got backup that it's David or, whoever is the appropriate
I want to
party.
be the last person.
to
Can I
I,
recommend that it be Jared?
To
Can
be
I
able
make
to
that
do that.
recommendation that it's Jared?
there's a signer, yeah.
Yes.
I can be an alternative signer. Like
I
that,
think
we
you-
can require 2 signatures on things. I don't care.
No,
I just don't want us to get in the lurch.
you just need
of-
to have him on there.
I think what it should be formally, so it doesn't matter from a position, is your position without naming a name, my position without naming a name.
That's fine.
And if somebody else is the executive director, they're there. I mean, you do have to have that person's signature on there for them to sign, but you and I need to get with BOK and
Yeah.
make sure we're right on that. So
Yes.
let me know what you need on that.
I can do that.
John, you okay with that?
I'm fine.
So I'll second that. All in favor, aye. Aye. All right, that takes us to citizen participation. Leanne, I appreciate you being here. For the record, I kind of asked her to come and sit in and hear. She is someone that over the years I have leaned on a lot when I was a lender. She has a lot of expertise, a lot of experience, and since I knew we were gonna look at the possibility of another bond program, and if they had done some things, I asked her to come in and sit in and kind of see what we're all about. She's not our enemy over anymore. She's just an old retired person like
Talking
me.
about how we did it, so, I get it.
So, but thank you for
It's
coming.
doable for y'all, y'all can get there.
That was helpful.
Anything? Okay.
I'll just throw this out here. I'm not sure it's inappropriate, but I've had a contact from a gentleman who is interested in one of the two lots we still own, and it's over on Northeast 16th. And it's not clear yet whether he owns the lots adjacent to it, but there are portions of Northeast Oklahoma City that were sold off in 37.5-foot segments where they threw up shotgun houses. So there are 4 lots on this block that are 37.5 feet each. The third one is an oil well. All 3 of those are owned by Urban Renewal, and ours is right next to that. And then there are, I think, 4 lots continuing to the west that are under separate ownership. And he is interested in perhaps interested in buying that 37.5-foot lot from us that's adjacent to
Just one lot.
So if he owns the one next to it,
he owns the one next to it. So the legal description when you do lots and blocks is he's calling it a lot, but it's 1.5 lots under legal description. So it's like all of block 5.
25-foot lot and a 12.5.
Yeah, it's a 25 and a 12.5.
the area was plotted when they built shotgun houses that were about as wide as this and about
Well,
as
but
deep.
Well,
No,
they're
no,
building
no.
them again now. I saw a house I could not
Well,
believe.
tiny homes are coming back. You're right.
It wasn't a tiny home. This was about a $300-something thousand house. It was built on a 25-foot lot.
Must have
could
been very
not-
deep and very tall.
It was 3 stories, but it was just 25 feet wide.
Yeah.
And it's if you're driving down Lincoln Boulevard, it's on the it's over there where the American Red Cross was.
Oh, yeah.
There only it's right in that neighborhood. Beautiful house, beautiful house. It's just straight up, 3 stories.
Well, should I
And it's
go
over
forward with that?
Absolutely. I mean,
Okay.
it does us no good and the money goes to the county, not us anyway.
How much is it? How much?
Right?
No, the money goes to us. It's our lot.
Well, I guess that's true because we are the county. That's how they can.
We
Those are
got it.
the
The
lots-
county gave it to
Those
us.
are the only lots we own.
We own 2. There's one over on East Park Place, and there's this one over on Northeast 16th. We own 2. This one is, because it's a 37.5-foot lot, even if we sold it under current city ordinances, it couldn't be developed, because you have to have a 50-foot minimum lot total, unless you get a waiver. Yeah.
But if he owns a lot next to us, he can do an abstract.
If you
on
guys
both.
are interested, I'll move forward with that.
Yep.
I would also say,
Yeah.
we've also had the
So
conversation.
that's not formal, that's just informal. That's one.
I think I've talked to everybody
You can
individually
heads up on
about
that.
it, but the city of Oklahoma City is moving forward with a TIF allocation for an apartment complex called Boulevard Place, downtown. And they have made the request to OCHFA to be the conduit on the payment for the TIF revenues, in lieu of giving the money straight to the developer.
So more work for you.
So more work for me. But if we end up having a May meeting, that item may be before you. It's targeted towards workforce housing development, which is clearly within our trust purposes, and we're not relying on the developer to make payments to us or revenues out of the development to pay us back. So those are 2 very good items to kind of jump back into that foray. So
Well, I would agree. And it lets us do something as an authority and have a purpose.
absolutely.
Big pardon, John?
When you get a chance, just text me the other lot that we own.
Okay.
The address.
Yep.
And congratulations to Ed.
Congratulations.
That's what
We should have had a cake.
Thank you.
Yeah, we should have. Well,
We can still have
at
cake.
the next meeting.
We can
Make
still
it-
have cake.
I
That's
bought
right.
myself a watch.
That's right.
Did you?
Yes.
Gold
What
one,
kind?
gold one, retired
One that works.
It doesn't matter when you're retired. You can get up whenever you want.
You're exactly right.
I think Sharon
I
needs a
think we're
motion to
out.
adjourn.
I think one of them we adjourn.
Yeah.
I moved with
We have
you.
new business.
I'll second that. And it's 3:04.
Okay.
Congratulations, I think.
Congratulations, you will enjoy it.
I'll see you.
We'll
No,
see
we're
about
not
that.
meeting.
Till you get bored, right?
We'll get in touch.
We're getting close though.
Let me know if you need anything. I know you.
I need as much money as I can get, so.